Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. We are now done with Imelda. It is now post-tropical. It's lost those tropical characteristics, but moved over the island of Bermuda. Actually, technically, it moved just to the south of the island, but still they had some of those winds. Tropical storm force, they had some of the higher elevations, some of the winds gusting up to about 90 miles an hour. Still, even though it's a post-tropical system and it's basically losing those tropical characteristics, still has winds of 75 miles an hour, and it is moving right now, currently moving to the east-northeast at 29 miles an hour. So despite it no longer being tropical, still going to have some pretty strong winds as it works its way across the North Atlantic. But the good news is stays out over open waters all the way through the middle or at least the early part of next week. So we're done with Imelda, done with the ice storm. We always think of that because it seems like over the past several years, so many of these ice storms have caused major problems. This one, a little problem for Bermuda, but overall, things are fine there. Now, big wide view, and we've got a couple of new areas to watch. Now, over the next few days, expecting to see a wave work its way off the coast of Africa. That's why you don't see an X on here. You see the shaded area, but you don't see that location marked at this point because it hasn't made its way off the coastline. And then as it continues to work its way through this shaded region, still at this point, we're looking at about a 20% chance. So anything that does happen, it's going to be slow to occur, but it's something we'll have to watch really as we get into next week. Now, back closer to home, this is what we're going to be watching over the next several days. It's a low chance, but it's something we have to pay attention to, about a 10% chance of development. Really, we're not talking about any major development with this. What we're more than likely going to see is just a lot of extra rain over the state. What we're looking at is down over the Bahamas, just an area of low pressure to be forming basically along this old boundary. You can clearly see that boundary both in the winds and in the storm. So we mention this often. You get this time, especially this time of the year, you get some of these old boundaries that hang out down across the Gulf, down across Florida in the southeast. If they're there long enough, sometimes you get these areas of low pressure that start to develop. And this is just that type of a situation. And a couple of the models are starting to indicate that. Now, as you look at the winds in the atmosphere, we do have some pretty strong winds. So that wind shear is certainly an issue. That's what's really going to pull back on this chance of something developing and make it a fairly hard sell to have something develop and really develop. That's why anything that develops is going to have to be a bit further to the south. But what many of the models are indicating, something maybe a depression or something trying to develop and then working its way slowly over the state. In fact, you can see that here on the Fox model. And you're also going to notice you don't see a whole lot of development with this as we go through the next several days. Here we are heading through Friday, heading into Saturday, and you're seeing just that idea right down here, a little spin, and then that's going to be working its way over the southern end of the state. But the net result is really just a lot of extra rain starting to work its way over the state. So as we head through the weekend, most of the rain confined down to our south. And then as we head through at least about the middle part of next week, we're going to see a lot of extra rain, but notice it's really focused right on the East Coast. When you look over onto the West Coast, you're just not seeing much, really pretty low on that scale. So not a lot of, basically we're talking about a lot of extra rain to the south and along the eastern side of the state. Looking out wide once again, we're going to watch for this wave to work its way off the coast of Africa. And there you see it as we head into the weekend and then working its way pretty fast on towards the west. But again, here we are heading into the first part of next week, and still really not a whole lot of development with this, but it's certainly something we're going to watch. It's not one of these areas you would typically expect to see as we move into October. You're looking less and less further out into the Atlantic, and that's why we may see something like this continuing to work its way on towards the west. And as it moves closer to the Caribbean, maybe we start to see a better chance of development. So we'll keep watch on these areas, and we'll keep you updated right here on myfoxhurricane.com.